Welcome back to The Weird Shyt, the show where we dive deep into the shadows of the unexplained. As always, I'm your host, Paul.
And I'm Matt. And today we're taking you into one of the most perplexing and disturbing mysteries of our time, the phenomenon known as missing 411.
Thousands of people have gone missing in national parks and wilderness areas under circumstances that defy logic. No signs of a struggle, no tracks, no scent trail. Sometimes they're never found. Other times, they're found in places that just don't make sense.
And the man who's been investigating this bizarre mystery for over a decade, a former cop named David Paulides. His work, controversial, relentless, and meticulously documented, has led to a series of books and documentaries that are equal parts fascinating and deeply unsettling.
So today, we're going to take a deep dive into the Missing 411 docuseries. It's loaded with high-profile cases David has brought to light and the unsettling resistance he's faced from government agencies. Better buckle up for this one. I'm sure some of you might be wondering, who is David Paulides? Well, David Paulides is a former law enforcement officer with over 20 years in the field, much of it with the San Jose Police Department. He also worked in various capacities, SWAT, street crimes, and even fraud investigations.
But his path took a sharp turn in the early 2000s. David became interested in Bigfoot research. Yes, you heard that right. And he authored a few books on the subject, but it was a chance encounter that changed everything.
Paulides tells the story of being approached by an off-duty park ranger at the lodge near a national park. The ranger confided something odd, that people were going missing in the parks under mysterious circumstances, and no one was talking about it.
And not only that, the ranger claimed that these cases weren't being properly investigated. There was no central database, no transparency, no pattern recognition, just disappearances and silence.
So David began digging. He filed a Freedom of Information Act request with the National Park Service. He wanted lists of people who had gone missing.
What happened next is where the story starts to get weird.
It actually gets really weird because, they wanted $1.4 million for this list of missing persons, but we'll get into that later. So Paulides discovered that the National Park Service didn't maintain a centralized list of missing persons. Well, if they did, they didn't tell him about it. That struck him as odd. Strikes me as odd as well. I mean, you could walk into any police station in the country and they'll provide you with a list of missing persons. But after all, we're talking about federal land, and there are hundreds of disappearances.
So he pushed harder. He asked for lists by specific parks, Yosemite, for example.
Park Service replied they didn't keep such a list, and if he wanted them to compile one, it would cost $34,000.
For David Paulides, this wasn't just red tape. It was a wall, a clear signal that something was being hidden. Whether it was bureaucratic incompetence or a deliberate effort to avoid scrutiny, Paulides became obsessed.
And so began the Missing 411, a project that would consume years of research and result in over a dozen books and 2 full-length documentaries. Actually, it's become 3 full-length documentaries, as he just recently launched 411, the UFO connection. Anyway, we're going to move on to some profile points on the Missing 411. Matt, you want to take it from there?
Now, let's be clear. Paulides doesn't claim that Bigfoot or aliens are behind these disappearances, though he doesn't rule anything out. What he does focus on is the pattern.
Yeah, he developed what he calls profile points, common elements that many of these strange cases share. Now, we're going to run through a few here. So, victims often disappear near granite boulder fields or clusters. The canine search dogs that are brought in to track them, they behave strangely or straight up refuse to track. Often they can't even find a scent of the person, which is extremely odd. Victims are often found, if at all, in previously searched areas, some areas that have been searched numerous times, up to 5, for example, at one of his cases. The missing often have disabilities, genius level intellect, or are small children. And there's another thing that most of them are of German descent. Weather frequently changes right after the person goes missing, and there's time gaps. Victims may vanish in seconds from within the sights of others. It's common that they would walk just around the corner on a path and boom, gone. Vanished into thin air.
These patterns aren't exact, but they're eerily consistent. But they're eerily consistent across state lines, across decades, and they're not just hikers, hunters, and children, or experienced outdoorsmen. It doesn't matter.
All right, so some of the high-profile cases. First one's going to go with Jared Adadero. All right, one of the earliest cases that he investigated, and one that appears in the first Missing 411 documentary, is that of Jared Adadero.
And Jared was just 3 years old. He went on a hike with a Christian group while his father stayed behind at the visitor center. The trail? Big South Trail in Colorado.
At some point, Jared ran ahead. Witnesses said he was never more than 100 feet away until suddenly he was just gone.
Searchers combed the area. Nothing. Not for years. Then in 2003, 4 years later, pieces of Jared's clothing were found in an area that had already been searched extensively. His shoes were clean, like they hadn't walked through the rugged terrain at all.
That's pretty weird, right? Shoes completely clean. 4 years later. Doesn't make much sense there. Anyway, there were also no signs of an animal attack. No explanation, just questions. I mean, when you want to think about it, though, they obviously searched this area for this kid, and, they find him 3 years later with fucking perfectly white shoes in the wilderness. Like, if those shoes were out in the weather, they would not be pristine. That just adds a little bit more to the creep factor. You know what I mean?
Unless they were holding on to whoever took his shoes, cleaned them, and put them outside.
Yeah, I mean, but, shit. Or they weren't there the whole time, and he went popping into another dimension and just popped back out of the dimension there 3 years later. That's...
Why would he send just his shoes back? You know what, let's move. This is interesting.
Oh, I'm just saying, I'm not saying that because their body was there too, So he came back dead, but, anyway, we'll move on. The second case is Devin Williams. Why don't you take the top of that?
Devin Williams was a long-haul trucker and former Marine. In 1995, he suddenly pulled his truck over on a California highway, got out, and walked into the desert. His co-driver said he was acting paranoid, like he was being watched.
I'm going to do a little interject here because David Paulides also, if you go to his YouTube page, he has a whole entire other series that's based on missing truckers, and he has another one on Bigfoot. Now, the one on missing truckers is excellent. It's crazy. These people are hardworking, regular people, never miss work, never do strange things, and they're all disappearing out of their rigs. It's pretty crazy. But I just wanted to get that interjected there real quick. Anyway, back to what we were talking about. Despite the helicopters, search teams, and the intense heat, Devin was just gone. His remains were found 7 months later, deep in the desert, in a spot that had been thoroughly searched already. Again, area that's thoroughly searched, and they find nothing, and months later, boom, there's the body in that spot. It makes really no sense at all.
There were no tracks leading to or from the body.
And this next case is Dior Kuntz. Now it's sad. He's a real little kid. Makes really no sense at all. But in 2015, 2-year-old Dior Kuntz Jr. went missing while on a camping trip with his parents and grandparents in Idaho. One moment he was playing right near the campsite, right near his grandfather, and the next he was gone.
What followed was a media frenzy. Cadaver dogs, search helicopters, dive teams, and nothing. Sounds like my Tuesday night.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, that's my Wednesday. Yeah, the thing about the cadaver dogs, later it reportedly they hit on a scent at the campground, but then they lost it, nothing again. And again, like I said before, that's a typical thing in a lot of these cases. And David has a set of rules to break down which cases he actually looks at. And one of the trigger signs is that dogs don't pick up any scent, no matter what.
So the case remains unsolved and open to public opinion. And public opinion is split. Some blame the parents, others think something stranger happened.
I agree that something stranger happened, especially since I've been over that case quite a bit. Matt, try to sound a little bit less robotic when you read it. Just go with the flow. So what's really happening in these cases? Paulides has never really committed to a single theory. He's opened the door to several possibilities, but he doesn't want to commit to anything because he believes anything is possible.
So first, the rational ones. Human predators, accidental deaths, animal attacks, or disorientation.
But, those don't explain the more bizarre cases, like the people found uphill miles away, no injuries, no memory.
So then you get the speculative stuff. Interdimensional rifts, alien abduction, government black ops, or even what does that say? Cryptid?
Interference.
Even cryptid interference.
Whatever the truth is, the facts are strange enough to raise some serious questions.
Not everyone buys Paulides' theories. Skeptics argue that he cherry picks data, focusing only on cases that fit his narrative.
And again, I'm going to interject there. That's just not true. He does cherry pick cases, but only because they meet the criteria that he has set out before, which is very good to separate it from main cases. Like, there's no chance that it's animal predation. There's no chance that it's murder. We're talking about tracks that someone took by themselves walking onto a lake, and their footprints stop in the middle of the lake. They didn't fall through the ice, and then they just disappeared. Like, shit like that. Like, of course you got to have some sort of criteria to separate these cases. But anyway.
Okay, so let's take that one for example. If you had one, just like pick what comes to your mind, what do you think happened to that person that disappeared on the lake?
I think either he ran into an interdimensional portal or he was abducted. That's the only two things that make sense to me. I mean, if there's no tracks leading anywhere else, he just stopped in the middle of the lake. And we're talking about a lake that is frozen solid, like, 4 feet deep. There's just no other explanation. That gentleman was actually found. Like a year later, he got dropped somewhere in the same vicinity with no memory, amnesia, doesn't know how he got there. He was wearing somebody else's clothes. I mean, it's just really strange. And this is all in the documentary. Like, again, we're not getting into everything here. We're just giving a basic overline of, what Paulides doing, because I believe what he's doing is a really good thing, because it isn't out there. Like, the people at Yosemite, more people go missing in these national parks, and there's no answer for it. They're not looking into it. They're brushing it under the rug.
So do you think it's aliens, or do you think it's intelligent abductors?
Honestly, my honest opinion is if they're being abducted, I don't think it's aliens, because I don't think the aliens are a threat to us. I don't think they want to harm us. I think it's our own people, because we do have our own re-engineered craft, and I think it's us abducting our own people through the Black program and the shadow government. But more than likely, a lot of the time, it could have something to do with interdimensional rifts and portals. It makes sense to me that you're walking around a corner, and maybe it's a magnetic anomaly, whatever it is. The veil opens up. I mean, how else do you explain you walk around a corner and you're right behind someone, 2 seconds, turn the corner, that person's gone? Obviously, he fell through some sort of portal. That's more my theory, but it could be a combination of both, depending on the circumstance.
Okay, where did we leave off here?
There's another really crazy one that I wanted to get into, but we're not going to be able to, because he started taking the same thing the same patterns and attaching them to where we left off right at host one, where they say in many cases there's likely a simple explanation. But I just want to say this one last thing. He started taking the same data criteria and putting it towards disappearances that were happening in the inner city around college campuses and stuff like that. And there's some really interesting ones there, like this one kid who went to the store at like 10 o'clock at night, and his body ended up inside of this like sewer processing plant with no possibility, like you could not get in there. You know what I'm saying? There's no way to get in there without like ripping your body apart, and his body is perfectly intact inside. So like something, like I said, some sort of dimensional gravitational anomaly, something weird is going on, you know? And that's all I have to say on that. And just to get back, because like I said, we're just doing the basic overflow. We can always do a part 2 on this. We're actually already almost through our scripted material here, but they say that in many cases there's likely a simple explanation, and that not making strong conclusions leaves his audience chasing shadows. But I don't see that with all the research I've done. But I'm going to pass it off to Matt for your last saying here. Even Paulides' critics agree on one thing. The number of strange data disappearances and lack of proper data from national agencies is disturbing. As for our final thoughts, and our final thoughts here. David didn't start out chasing the paranormal. He was a cop, a Bigfoot researcher, sure, but a detail-oriented investigator.
What he's uncovered may not point to one simple answer, but it's clear that something unusual is happening in our wilderness.
And, whether it's a pattern of human error or a cover-up, something far stranger, we're left with the same question. How can someone just vanish without a trace?
And why? Is no one keeping track?
And this, it's completely bullshit that they're not keeping track. I mean, like I said, again, you can walk into any police station and get a list of missing persons report. They'll hand it to you over the desk in 10 minutes, right? So you're going to tell me that the police force at Yosemite or the Yellowstone National Park, they're going to tell you, that was lovely. They're going to tell you that they don't have a list of missing persons in their park. A federal run police agency, they don't have a list. And if you want that list, you got to pay for it. That doesn't sound very democratic to me. And it sounds like they got something to fucking hide, honestly. It's a little sketchy to me. Does it sound sketchy to you?
It sounds more like they're overworked and underpaid and probably don't have a reason for keeping a standardized list because they have nobody to report it to.
I mean, I love that you want to play devil's advocate like that, but that's bullshit. It's bullshit, and you know it.
Yeah, if I worked at a national park, I could probably list off all the people that I ever saw go missing, but it doesn't mean that it's being done on purpose. It might just mean that they don't know what to fucking do with it either.
Because they're telling you that they're telling you that they don't have a list, but then they're telling you they'll sell you one for $1.4 million. So they have a fucking list. They have the list. Like I said, this is a federal police agency. Yeah, they're environmental police or whatever, but there's no way
so
that they don't have a list.
Two things. One, if it's humans, they're using federal run parks because the local jurisdiction doesn't have authority and they have more time. And two, if it is something else, they are using that as a shadow because they could pull people from anywhere. But I think there's something interesting about it being on federal land. I don't think it means that the government is necessarily to blame, but I think that
No, I mean it could be any pocket of the government. It could be like I said, the problem with the government is they're so compartmentalized. I mean, look at all the stuff the Senate doesn't even know what's going on. Like there's big problems right now. And I don't know if you've seen them or not. I'm going to list some stuff off that you're going to need to watch, and all the people listening are going to need to watch too. You can get them for free right on Tubi. But the man is Dr. Stephen Greer. He puts together a lot of things. He's a brain surgeon, and in the '90s, he stumbled onto some stuff that he started to share. You're gonna want to watch Unacknowledged. You're gonna want to watch The Battle for Disclosure, and you're gonna want to watch The Cosmic Hoax, and that's gonna put you guys into touch base with a lot of the shadow operations that's going on in our government. The original Constitution is only 26 pages. If you haven't read it, I suggest you do, because we're at a complete 180 from what the original founding fathers had expected for this country, and that's really all I'm gonna say about that right now. I'm a traditionalist, and that's
so
another
one thing I'll
podcast for
say,
another
actually,
day.
I want to ask you a question. I've been asking some people this question recently. Even though politics may seem like it's in chaos right now, do you still have faith in the belief that we are God's country?
Yeah, I will. I'm not one of those people that sits there and says, "I'm gonna run to Canada." Well, you know what? You're a pussy. This is your
Do you,
country.
yes or no
Well,
answer. Is the United States going to correct itself?
if the people step up,
It's not a yes or no.
I can't give a yes or no answer. Would I like the United States to correct itself? Yes. Do I want to be a part of it? Yes. There's too many factors involved for me to give a yes or no answer on that. Do I believe it will? Well, I hope that it will.
If I asked you, based on knowing you your whole life, if you believe God is real, yes or no, what would you say?
Yes.
Okay, so then God, family, country. Do you believe your family is real?
Yes.
Do you believe even in chaos, family, God, and country will correct themselves?
I believe that they will attempt to.
I think that maybe people are maybe trying too hard. Have you noticed lately that politics is talked about 24/7 all year round instead of just in, the season for voting?
Well, even that, and if you want, again, if you read the original Constitution or the original declarations, there's no such thing. There's not supposed to be a such thing as a career politician. It's not a thing. It was supposed to be a civil service that someone did randomly for their town or their state or their country. They weren't even supposed to accept money for it. All right. They were not supposed to use it for monetary gain in any way, shape, or form. This is why George Washington, who did not want to take the presidency, but he took it out of necessity because he knew he was the only person that could get this country going in the right direction. People that seek out leadership shouldn't be leading. He didn't want to lead, but he had to. All right. And
Well,
that's
then,
why.
doesn't that mean that people like you or I shouldn't be willing to step up if nominated?
Yes, like I mean, I don't seek leadership, but if I'm asked to, I will.
Do you fear the ability to be compromised in your morals because of politics if you were to go into it?
No, I don't fear any of it because I feel like if I'm doing things based on my beliefs, and like I said, God won't put anything in front of you can't handle. So I'll believe that the ends do justify the means, I guess, in a way.
Okay, let me. I asked you the question about whether it will correct itself or not. I recently got married and I recently rediscovered my faith. Obviously, I was brought up in the church, but what I have found, especially through addictions and all sorts of things, the lower you go, the higher you can fly. But the thing is, everything in chaos always comes back to equilibrium if given enough time and space. And I believe the United States is a good example of that, because if it were a dictatorship, we would have no chance of it. The deeper we went, the deeper we went. Here, I believe the ball is going to bounce, and that's why I'm staying completely objective on the subject. And
Well,
I can
we're
basically
heading. We're
see
not to
who a
interrupt
person is
you.
based on whether or not they think the country will correct. Because I recently asked a customer of mine, She was ranting about politics. That's all I'm going to say about who she was. But I said with a smile, but don't you think the country will correct itself? And mind you, she's a veteran. And she looked at me with seriousness and said, I don't think so this time.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
I
The
walked
thing is,
away from the conversation.
it's it's not even a democracy anymore. It's a capitalist corporatocracy under the guise of a democracy. It's the problem, and it's also fascist. I mean, we're becoming fascist. They're stripping our rights with these like the Patriot Act. Well, who's going to vote against the Patriot Act? You know. But if you look at the fine print, that's what strips us of our rights and allows us to be held for 72 hours with no reasoning, and they can search us for no reason, and they can ask us for ID for no reason. They can enter our home for no reason. Like all these things that people are thinking they're giving up these rights for safety, for protection. The government has become the biggest organized crime unit ever formed. All right, they're basically trading our rights for safety, for protection, just like the mob would trade money for protection. That's what it's become. Thomas Jefferson said, when the people fear the government, there's tyranny. When the government fears the people, there's liberty. And we need to get back towards the latter, because it's a big problem right now. And if we don't step up and do something, and I don't want to hear that shit that no, that one person can't make a difference, because you bet your ass one person can make a difference. If I get on this podcast, even if I'm by myself, and every day I jump on here and I say something and I post this, maybe I affect one other person, and maybe that person affects one other person, and so on and so forth down the line. But one person can make a difference, and that's really where we're at. So
And
we'll see
maybe someday we'll be in the Oval Office like the Kennedy brothers and having a conversation about this podcast. But that's the question I'm still willing to answer with an absolute yes, is would I take a bullet to become president of this country and run it the right way? I would. I still believe that is the ultimate office in the world, and I wouldn't go seeking it, but I'll tell you that it is still in my blood to have
And you
that
know
sense of
what?
pride.
Would I take a bullet for you if I thought you could get there? I would.
Well, let's just hope that we can resolve all of our bathroom assignment issues first in the country, because this is getting ridiculous. It's funny, like I almost accidentally walked into 3 women's bathrooms in public this week because I, one, am like don't care, and two, I don't know, it's kind of like a fate thing, and being told I can't go into a bathroom. What if I turned around and was like, I was looking for the women's bathroom?
Oh, no, bro, you're fine, because you can walk into whatever one, because if they say anything, be like, oh, actually, I'm female today. So, it's not a big deal, right? You can just identify as whatever you want on whatever day, and you're fine.
I want you to know that there's parts of this separation that I've noticed. I'll give you an example. I have never been biased towards any spiritual group, or I'm Catholic through and through, and that's how I was raised. But I've done AA, I've done all sorts of churches, everything you can imagine.
Yeah,
I'll
we were
tell you
raised
that our
Catholic, but we're more Christian than Catholic
it's
at
just
this
Christian.
point.
It's a belief.
Yeah.
I believe that all roads lead to Rome. But the problem I see right now is our
All
church.
roads lead to ruin, my friend.
We do the Zoom for our church right now, and that started during COVID. But at maximum capacity, we probably have about 17 members that are attending church on a weekly basis, and the average age is about 75. And I'm not kidding you. Like Nikita and I are by far the youngest two in the building, and I notice that nobody new is venturing through the doors because everybody is identifying politically and religiously again, and it's becoming a thing that nobody even discusses. Like people aren't going to church not because they're bored; it's they don't want to be labeled, and it's concerning to me because if you never try anything to find faith, what do you end up as? I mean,
Yeah.
you end up as somebody being pushed around by memes you read on Facebook. I mean, I don't know. Or podcasts, because we both know that you can go off the deep end from podcasts. I've gone to places where I've binged for hours and hours, come out the next morning believing the Illuminati and flat Earth have to
Oh,
be real.
yeah. I mean, also, it's like, not everybody's meant to be a leader, but the problem is people individually are intelligent. People in a group are retarded, because they'll follow the first idiot that has a ability to speak in front of the public, whether he's right or wrong. A lot of people are going to fight on, follow him, because most people are followers, and that's the problem, especially in large groups. You don't need to go to church to believe in God, to have a relationship with God. If you want to, that's great. If you want to go to a church and use that to spread faith and spread love, that's one thing. The original Catholic Church, I don't trust as far as I could throw. I don't think they had any good intentions. You know, the Pope says that he's God's source of power on earth. Well, I'll tell you what, God doesn't need anybody to be his source of power on earth. So
Let
that's
me ask you a
fucking out the
question.
window.
Can I ask you something here? And I'm maybe playing devil's advocate, but here's my thought. And this is just how I believe in what my higher power is to me. I believe that
Can I interrupt you real
every,
quick? Just 1 second,
yeah.
just 1 second. Did you know that this is supposedly the last pope? There's no more pictures or room for another pope to be posted on the wall. If you look at the predictions, this is the last pope, so they don't know what's going to happen after this. I'm not familiar 100% with all the different prophecies, but supposedly this is the last one. But yeah, go ahead and continue what you were
I'm
saying.
glad that we're here for this transition because something is happening.
Yeah, I told you about Malachi.
But
Did you ever?
I
Did you
believe
ever?
I believe that any human being is greater in heart and mind than any circumstance. And if you walk out into a field, you can connect with your higher power. Most people, I believe, including me, every day for at least more than 3/4 of the day, I struggle to know what are inner ego thoughts and what is coming from my higher power. So maybe the people need the Pope as a conduit because they don't believe they can do it themselves. That's the only rationale I can come up with. So it gives people an out.
Yeah, but
Like
I
they don't
still
have to
don't.
be spiritually
They could
responsible.
still. That's fine. They could still have the Pope, but he doesn't need to be God's source of power. You know. Anyway, I just think it's a title that I mean it shouldn't be said like that. It shouldn't be spoken like that. Anyway, but you know, it's this is kind of turned into a little rant, which is fine. That's what this podcast is about. It's the weird shit. Anything goes. You know, we can get into anything: politics, current events. You know, paranormal. You know, missing 411. You name it. You know, we just basically wrapped on another episode. Matt, I
Well,
appreciate you coming on and co-hosting.
I gotta tell people that they can reach us at paranormal playback paranormal playback pod at gmail.com or on
Actually,
Instagram at
correction,
paranormal playback.
correction, correction. Sorry about that. You can reach us at the weird shit at gmail.com, and shit is spelled SHYT. That is the weird shit at gmail.com. You can also reach me at paranormal playback at gmail.com, but I prefer that you use the weird shit
Just so
website.
people can get an idea of how you think. Why did you choose a Y instead of an I?
You know what? It's just a little bit of flavor, you know? My personality, you know? The weird shit, you know? Why be normal? That's basically it. And what is normal? Normal is what anybody's individual definition of normal is, you know? What is weird? We don't really know. You know, it's just kind of anything goes, you know? And at the end of the day, everything is shit. So, you know, I'm just trying not to step in it, if you know what I'm saying.
I hear you. Good night, Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. Good night, world. Good night, universe. Guys, appreciate it. Matt, appreciate you coming on. Everybody out there, this episode will be loaded shortly. Trying to load at least 1 to 2 a week from this point forward. Again, I apologize for the delay. Regardless, everybody have a good night. And this is the weird shit signing off.